गुरुरेव गति गुरुमेव भजे गुरुनैव सहास्मि नमो गुरवे न गुरुः परमं शिशुरस्मि गुरुः मातिरस्मि गुरो मम पाहि गुरो सच्चिदानन्तरूपाय विश्वोत्पत्त्यादिहेतवे तापत्रयविनाशाय श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नमः। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय हरये परमात्मने प्रणतः क्लेशनाशाय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। यं प्रव्रजन्तमनुपेतमपेदकृत्यं द्वैपायनो विरहकादराजुहाव पुत्रेति तन्मयतया तरवोऽभिनेदुस्तं सर्वभूतहृदयं मुनिमानतोऽस्मि। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। सर्वेभ्यः नमस्कारः। In the last chapter, that is in chapter 25 of Canto 3 of Srimad Bhagavada Purana, Kapila Muni, after explaining or praising Bhakti, Bhakta and Bhakti Yoga, now in this chapter, that is chapter 26, he explains about the Purusha, Prakriti and its evolutes. So from this chapter, that is chapter 26, begins the core Sankhya philosophy. In this chapter, Bhagavan tells about the nature of the Purusha, the nature of the Prakriti and its evolutes. Bhagavan says, Bhagavanuvacha anadiratma purushoho nirguna prakriti paraha pratyagdhama swayam jyoti vishwam yena samanvitam. This Purusha is Anadi Atma. It is beginningless Atma. Nirgunaha. It doesn't have any gunas or any attributes. Prakriti Paraha. It is supreme than the Prakriti. And Swayam Jyoti. It is self-effulgent. And Vishwam Yena Samanvitam. It reveals everything. Just like the sun reveals itself and reveals what are all there in this world, in this Vishwa. So like this, Purusha is self-revealing as well as it reveals everything, just like what we tell as Brahman in Vedanta philosophy. And Prakriti is constituted of three gunas, that is the Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. And when I say constituted, one must not understand that it is a compound. Compound is different because in compound, one can exist without the other and it can separate. But constituted means it cannot separate. The Sattva Guna cannot exist alone without Rajas and Tamas. At least 0.5% of Rajas and Tamas must be there. And like this, the Rajas cannot exist together. The same thing with Tamas. So this three constitute the Prakriti. And the Prakriti is the basic, that is, it is the divine, subtle divine power in Purusha. And the other names of Prakriti is, of course, Mula Prakriti, Pradhana, and principal entity. All these are the different ways of telling that Prakriti. And this Purusha, instigated by time and karma, it looked in a very sportive way, it looked at Prakriti. And the Prakriti lost its equilibrium and the Prakriti began to evolve into different categories. The Purusha looked very sportively at Prakriti. It implies that the Purusha became aware of Prakriti, and immediately the Prakriti lost its equilibrium and it began to evolve. For example, we sleep in the night and the early morning, instigated by our karma and kala, first the mind wakes up. It is not the body that wakes up first. We will be aware of that we have woken up. At that time, we don't remember anything. We cannot connect with anything for a few seconds. At least for a fraction of a second, we will be blank, but we will be awake. The rishis tell this 1 second is very close to Brahman. And then we become aware of the time, the work we have to do, then we just jump out from the bed. So, just like that, instigated by time and karma, the Purusha became aware of the Prakriti, and the Prakriti, when it became aware of that Prakriti, the constituents of the Prakriti, that is the three gunas, they were in equilibrium from the last Pralaya. Now it lost its equilibrium. It began to change and it began to evolve. Now this Prakriti began to evolve into 24 categories. The first evolute is the Mahatattva, then Ahankara, Manas, Buddhi, these are the four. Then the 5 Tanmatras, from that came the 5 basic elements, the 5 organs of perception or organs of knowledge, the 5 organs of action. So all this make 24. These 24 evolutes came one after the other. It did not come all at a time. One thing evolved, and from that evolved the other thing after some time. So like that, it began to evolve. The 24 categories evolved from that Prakriti. Now the 5 Tanmatras are Shabda, that is a sound, Sparsha, touch, Rupa, form, Rasa, taste, and Gandha, smell. These are the 5 Tanmatras. From these 5 Tanmatras evolved the 5 basic elements, that is the Panchabhutas. From the Shabda Tanmatra evolved Akasha. From the Sparsha Tanmatra evolved Vayu, air. From the Rupa Tanmatra evolved Tejas or Agni. From the Rasa Tanmatra evolved Apa or water. And from the Gandha Tanmatra, that is a smell, evolved earth or matter. So all these evolved from this Tanmatra, and these are the 5 basic elements. And the 5 organs of perception are the 2 eyes, the ears, the nostrils, the tongue to taste, and the skin. That is the 5 organs of perception. And the 5 organs of action are the hands, the legs, the tongue for speech, and the generative organs and the excretory organs. So these are the 5 organs of action. And these evolved one after other. And apart from it, there are 4 psychological categories. They are the manas, that is the mind, which main function is a thought, and buddhi, the main function is determination, decision, and apart from it, ahankara. This ahankara gives an individuality, individuality feeling for the entire universe as well as for the individual. This ahankara, that I sense, ego sense, that evolved from it is one of the categories. And also the chitta. Chitta is the mind stuff in which, or it has the capacity to record or to preserve all the impressions of the experiences of the universe as well as for the individual. So all these 4 are the psychological categories. So all this makes 24. This evolved one after the other. Now, the another thing is the time. The time is set as the 25th category. Yaha kalaha panjavimshakaha. And some acharyas and some rishis say that this time is not a category, but it is an inherent power in Bhagavan, that is in Purusha. Because everything that is this Prakriti came from the indiscrete state to the discrete state only by the instigation of this time. The time means it denotes the beginning. Only by that time this Prakriti evolved. So they are of the idea that it is the subtle power in Bhagavan. And the rishis also say that in us Bhagavan reside as the indwelling spirit, and outside he exists as Kala, that is time. We cannot perceive time, but we can perceive time only by the moment. How do we understand that half an hour has passed, this time has passed? Because of the movement of the sun, and everything moves. So, only by movement we are able to perceive the presence of time itself. So, it is just a subtle power inherent in Bhagavan, and it denotes the beginning of everything. Now, let us see about the evolutes of Prakriti. The first evolute of Prakriti is the Mahat Tattva. The Mahat Tattva is said as Hiranyagarbha, the cosmic shell, and the Puranas and the stories or ancient stories, they tell this as Brahmadeva. The symbolification of Mahat Tattva or Hiranyagarbha is Brahmadeva, and his four heads are the Manas, Buddhi, Chitta, and Ahankara. So, anyway, the first evolute of Prakriti is Mahat Tattva. When the Mahat Tattva evolved, it dispelled the darkness of Pralaya. It was so effulgent, and this Mahat Tattva had all the creation in its seed form in it. So, in the end of the previous Pralaya at that time, everything, this entire creation, entered in Bhagavan as a seed, as a potent energy. So, all that were there in that Mahat Tattva or the Hiranya Garbha. So, that is Mahat Tattva. It had the entire creation. What all we know, we may not know about the distant universes and all. Everything was there in that Mahat Tattva, which is also said as Hiranya Garbha. And Bhagavan Vishnu, he emanated into four forms as Vasudeva, Sangharshana, Aniruddha, and Pradyumna. These are the four forms of Bhagavan Vishnu. From that Mahat Tattva evolved Ahankara. And Ahankara symbolifies Sangharshana. Sangharshana is also said as the Adisesha or Ananta. And or you can say that Ahankara's presiding deity is Sangharshana. And this Ahankara means, as I said, it gives an individuality feeling, not only for the human beings or any beings, but for the entire universe. The entire universe exists as as separate from Bhagavan because of this Ahankara. It's just an impression, a feeling. It gives us the feeling of separateness. It is because of this Ahankara we feel that I'm separate from Bhagavan and separate from one another and all that. That's why when the Ahankara dissolves, then the next thing is merging in Brahman. So that powerful is Ahankara. And this Ahankara expresses in three ways: as a Vaikarika, dominated by Sattva Guna; Taijasa, dominated by Rajoguna; and Tamasa, dominated by the Tamoguna. From the Vaikarika Ahankara emanates mind. From the Taijasa Ahankara, that is dominated by Rajasa Guna, emanates Buddhi. And from the tamas ahankara, dominated by the tamo guna, emanates the five tanmatras and the five bhutas, that is the panchabhutas, the basic elements. Now let us see about each one of this ahankara in detail, a bit detail. So the ahankara expresses itself in three ways as the vaikarika, taijasa and tamasa. The vaikarika ahankara is dominated by the sattva guna and from it evolves, that is, comes out the mind. And the presiding deity of Manas is Aniruddha. It is said that he has the dark blue complexion. The function of the mind is the sankalpa and vikalpa. We all know that very well. Sankalpa means imagination, imagining all this thought, and imagination, confusion, identification with the body and the senses. All these are due to sankalpa. Vikalpa means obsession. When we say something, we like it, we identify with it, and we want to own it, we want to obsess it. And because of that, a desire is created in the mind. So the function of the mind is the sankalpa and vikalpa, always in thoughts, imagination, and whatever. For example, if I imagine about something or a book, even a book, I want to own it, I want to possess it. So sankalpa and vikalpa are the functions of the mind, and the presiding deity of Manas is Aniruddha, and because of this Manas, we have so many desires. And the next way the Ahankara expresses is the Rajas Ahankara or the Taijas Ahankara, which is dominated by the Rajoguna. And the categories that evolved from the Rajas Ahankara is the Buddhi, the 10 Indriyas, and the Prana. The function of the Buddhi is determination, decision making. And it also has another function, misunderstanding. Very common, isn't it? Because of this misunderstanding, we create lot of problems for ourselves and for others also. And so, misunderstanding is a very important function of buddhi. Correct understanding too. Correct understanding, memory of the experiences, and becomes inoperative in sleep. So that is the function of the buddhi. And the buddhi expresses itself through the organs of perception. Through the eyes we see, and immediately it goes to the mind and to the buddhi. So the buddhi decides what to see and what not to see. So like that, to what to hear, what not to hear. So the buddhi uses the organs of perception, and it determines everything. Now, the organs of perception, as I said, we have seen that it is the eyes, the ears, the nostrils, the tongue, and the tongue to taste, and the skin. Now, the buddhi uses the organs of perception, and another evolute prana, it uses the organs of action, that is the hands, the legs, and all that. It expresses itself through these organs of action. I'm able to move this hand because of this energy prana in me. So it expresses itself and it uses these organs of actions for its function. So this is the evolute of the Rajas Ahankara. Now the next is the Tamas Ahankara. From that evolves the five Tanmatras, and from the Tanmatras evolve the Panchabhutas, the five Bhutas. From first evolute of the tamas ahankara is the shabda sound, and it is the organ ear from the rajas ahankara perceives the sound, and from the shabda sound evolves the element akasha. So the function of the sound is for identification, perception mainly. Suppose if I close my eyes, I can perceive what sound are all there around me because of the powerful hearing power, because of the shabda. And the function of the element Akasha, which came from it, is to give space. It gives space, and that's why we are able to do all our karmas. And even inside our body, the organs are separated because of this space only. So, the main function of Akasha is to give space for us to do the karmas. Now, from the that is the basic of the Akasha is the Shabda Tanmatra. From the Shabda Tanmatra evolves the Sparsha Tanmatra, which is a touch sense. And the skin organ perceives the touch sense. From the Sparsha evolves Vayu, air. So the function of Sparsha Tanmatra, touch sense, is again identification and perception. I can feel the movement even if I close my eyes. Because of that touch sense, I can perceive what are all happening around me. And from that they came the element Vayu. The function of Vayu is circulation of air, circulation inside even our body. So that circulation is the main function of Vayu. Now, from the Vayu, it's in its subtle state is Sparsha Tanmatra. From the Sparsha Tanmatra evolved Rupa Tanmatra, that is form. The organ eyes perceives the form. And from the Rupa Tanmatra evolves the Tejas, that is heat and light. The function of Rupa is to identify, to have a separate form. Because of this Rupa Tanmatra only, we all have this form. And that's why, according to the Hindu culture, in the end, we give this form to the element Agni, and we submit that back. We have performed taken this Rupa and used this Rupa to perform karmas. So, after the karmas are over with this body, we give back this body to Agni, which is the element which came from the Rupa Tanmatra. That is the tattva behind it. So, the Rupa Tanmatra, the eye perceives, and the function is to give form to all the beings to perform their karmas. And from that came the element Tejas. And the function of Tejas is to give heat and light and energy through it. We cook food because of Tejas. In that way, it is helping us. We see everything because of the Tejas. So, all these are the function of the fire or Tejas. The Tejas in its subtle form is the Rupa Tanmatra, and from that Rupa Tanmatra evolves the next Tanmatra, that is the Rasa Tanmatra, the taste. The tongue organ perceives the taste, and from this Rasa Tanmatra evolves the element water. Rasa Tanmatra is it gives a taste that sweet, hot, astringent taste, sour taste. So all that taste, the combination of all these tastes. So there are millions and millions of tastes in these objects or the forms because of this Rasa Tanmatra. And from that came the element Apa, water. And the function of water is to give us life, flowing, liquidifying everything, consolidating our, making frozen form everything. So all these are the functions of the water or Apa, Rasa Tanmatra. Evolved the Gandha Tanmatra, that is the smell. And the organ nostrils perceives the smell. And from this Gandha Tanmatra evolved the element earth or matter. So the function of the Gandha is again identification and perceiving and giving knowledge to the buddhi about it. There are so many smell, good smell, bad smell, foul smell, so many smells, and we can, to an extent, we can perceive the object or what is happening around us by this nostril tanmatra, Gandha Tanmatra itself. And the function of the earth is to give us space for us to, or allow us to do the karmas on her. If Mother Earth didn't give us space to, or allow us to do the karmas, then what will we do? Where we will go and to exhaust our karmas? So we have to circle around like that, the atmas without shanti, because we cannot perform karma without this rupa, and without uh, the earth allowing us to perform all the karmas on her. That's why we must perform only good karmas on earth, because if she didn't give us space or allow us to do the karmas on her, then what we will do? How will this atma attain moksha? So that's why we have to perform one and only good karmas on earth. Anyway, earth allowed us to perform karmas on her. So these are the five tanmatras and these are the five elements. With this 24 basic categories, the entire creation is made. The entire creation, billions and billions of forms and different things. Who knows what are all there in the outer space? No one knows. Does anyone know what are all there inside the earth itself? Okay, leave all that. Has anyone seen the whole world? We might have seen different countries or might have gone for world tour, but cannot circle around the whole world. It is not possible. So, what are all are made of these 24 basic categories. It is just like when we give children or five or four or five blocks, they make many images out of it, many forms out of it. So just like that, with these 24 basic categories, the entire creation, the entire cosmos is made. So each of this element, they have a special category along with the added category. Akasha has the sound, and Vayu has a sound and touch sense. Tejas has sound, touch, and form. Water has sound, touch, form, and along with it, taste. And the earth element, it has sound, touch, form, taste, and gandha, smell also. So, like this, all the elements and tanmatras were made. Now, all these were made in the beginning of that creation, but it did not have the power to come together. Without that, when everything is separate, how can this world be made? So it were all separate, different categories here and there scattered. Bhagavan, with his energy, he entered in these categories. And these categories became active and they came together. And they came together to form a cosmic shell. And Bhagavada says, येतान्यसंहत्य यथा महदाधिनि सप्त वै कालकर्मगुणोपेदो जगदादिरूपाविशत्. The Supreme Being, along with the time and karma and gunas, he entered into them. He entered these different categories and ततस्तेनानुविध्येभ्यो युक्तेभ्यो अंड अचेतनम् उत्थितं पुरुषो यस्मादुदिष्टधसौविरान्. And when all these categories came together, it took the form of a shell, that is the cosmic shell, anda, that is an egg-shaped, elliptical shaped cosmic shell. And this cosmic shell was achetanam. It did not have any consciousness. It floated on the water of deluge. And Bhagavata says, Yeda dandam visheshakyam krama vruddhair dashotaraihi tohyadhibi parivrutam pradhanena vruddhair bahihim yat लोकवितानोऽयं रूपं भगवतो हरेः. So this under, it was surrounded by layers, 7 layers, and each layer is 10 times bigger than the previous layer. Like that, this cosmic shell was surrounded by earth, water, then Tejas, Agni, Vayu, air, Akasha, and Ahankara and Mahatattva. So these 7 layers surrounded that under. And this under, that is this along with this layer and this shell form, this is said as the gross body of Bhagavan. But this under was Achetana. Now, because of the categories, the power of the categories in it, all these senses, they received power from Bhagavan, and all these presiding deities and all, they received power from Bhagavan. So, by the conscious power in the shell, all these categories became active and formed sense apertures in the cosmic shell. That is the sense, the openings in the cosmic shell. And in the cosmic shell, the first manifested was, what is first manifested was the face. And from that face, the mouth, at the place of the mouth came, mouth and speech manifested, and Agni Deva, he took place there, and like that the speech manifested, and next the another, from that another aperture the ears manifested, and the Drig Devadas, they took place there, and the eyes manifested, and the Surya Deva, he took place there, and the organ sense also became active. So, like this, in the entire cosmic shell, at the places of all these organs, there came apertures, and the sense organs were manifested there, and the presiding deities took place there, and thus came the speech, the smell, and all that came outside that cosmic shell. Now, the totality of all the souls of these different creatures in Bhagavan, all the totality or collective souls of the universe, it entered the heart of that cosmic being. And the cosmic being became active. And this cosmic form of Bhagavan is called the Virat Purusha. It was so effulgent, bright, shining, Koti Surya Prakasha. And this Virat Purusha, it became active and stood like that with all the beings of this creation in it. And it was in the form of the Purusha, like how our form is. What are all organs are there in our body? The same organs, along with the senses and the presiding deities, are there in the Virat Purusha. Not only the form of the Purusha, the form of the animals, everything were there in that Virat Purusha. All the beings, even a small amoeba, it is there in the Virat Purusha. So it has the totality of all the forms. And you might remember that in Bhagavad Gita, it is this Virat Purusha Rupa Bhagavan Sri Krishna showed to Arjuna. Just imagine what he would have felt by seeing that. So this is the Virat Purusha Rupa of Bhagavan. From the next chapter, chapter 27, Kapila Muni explains about the Jiva. What is the Jiva and what are the functions of the Jiva? That I will explain in my next upload. Shri Narayana Kila Guru Bhagavan Namaste. Om Sri Krishna Arpanamastu.